Like the belly button thing, it's the silliest thing in the whole world. Why she couldn't show her belly button. And the minute a lot of fuss was made about it, it was never seen. You know, it was never seen. Most people remember Barbara Eden as the genie in the bottle, but NBC executives once held an actual meeting about her belly button. They created strict costume rules to hide it on camera. Her co-star, Larry Hagman, was drinking heavily and could barely function. She had to save his career behind the scenes. Her real life was even more dramatic than the show. She survived an abusive marriage, lost a baby, and watched her son battle addiction for years. At 93, she's finally found peace, but the journey will leave you speechless. Barbara Eden was born on August 23, 1931, in Tucson, Arizona. It was 104 degrees that day, and she weighed just 5 pounds 3 ounces. Her father wasn't even there. He was working nearly 90 miles away on a construction site. She wasn't named Barbara at birth. For 3 days, the name on her certificate was simply Baby Girl Moorhead. Her parents couldn't agree on a name. One wanted Barbara, the other Jeanette. So they compromised. Barbara Jean. She came into the world during the Great Depression. Things got worse in 1934 when her parents divorced. Barbara and her mother moved to San Francisco, where life was brutal. They changed homes 7 times in 5 years. At one point, they lived in a single room shared with 12 other people. There was just one bathroom for all of them. In 1937, it got so cold that their pipes froze for 17 straight days. Barbara got sick and missed 28 days of school that year. Her mother worked 3 jobs just to keep them afloat: telephone operator, waitress, and weekend retail clerk. Even with all that, they only brought in about $16 a week. The electricity was cut off 14 times in 3 years. Barbara found ways to cope. She invented an imaginary friend named Francine, a rich girl who never got cold and had 18 dresses. Barbara talked to her all the time. It was her way of surviving the loneliness, while her mom worked non-stop. Her mother wasn't just a hard worker. She could sing. One day in 1938, their landlord heard her singing Ave Maria. He was so moved, he cut their rent by 40% in exchange for weekly performances. Barbara would sit and watch as her mother sang at family parties. They couldn't afford music lessons, so they went to the library and listened to opera recordings on old headphones. Her mom would write down notes about breathing techniques and vocal timing on scraps of paper. On July 4, 1941, Barbara got her first big moment. Another child performer fell ill at a neighborhood war bonds rally, and 9-year-old Barbara was asked to fill in. She sang God Bless America in front of a crowd and helped raise $317, worth more than $6,000 today. A local newspaper even mentioned her. After that, her mom saved everything she could to get Barbara lessons with a retired opera singer named Madame Voslovsky. The lessons were $2.25 a week, and they continued for 127 straight weeks. By the time Barbara got to Abraham Lincoln High School, she was already carrying herself like a performer. But it didn't come easy. She tried out for cheerleading and was rejected. They said she was too shy and awkward. So she studied. For 6 months, she watched the best cheerleaders, analyzed their moves, and practiced non-stop. Her second tryout was a success. She made the team and became the youngest varsity cheerleader in school history. But she didn't stop there. She created 7 new cheer routines that combined dance and stage timing. They were so good that the school used them for nearly 20 years. She kept a 3.7 GPA, worked 22 hours a week at a cosmetics counter, and joined 4 clubs. At one school rally in 1948, a radio host saw her perform and offered her a gig on the show Youth Spotlight. She got paid $8.75 a week, over $100 in today's money. That was her first paid entertainment job. By graduation, she had saved enough to pay for community college and a professional photo portfolio. In 1951, Barbara entered the Miss San Francisco pageant. It was her fourth try. She had been cut early in 1949 and 1950. One judge even wrote she had problematic stage presence and a body that was too athletic. But Barbara didn't quit. She spent most of her savings on training. She walked with encyclopedias on her head for over a year. She learned how to move like a model, how to own a stage. The 1951 pageant was the biggest yet, with 86 contestants and a diamond crown worth $3,500. For the talent section, Barbara performed stormy weather with her own lighting setup, which she paid for herself. $165 worth, almost 2 months of wages. She won. That crown didn't just bring a title, it brought exposure. She appeared on TV for the first time and caught the eye of a Paramount talent scout. Just 6 weeks later, she was doing a professional screen test. She kept training, too. Every Saturday, she rode the streetcar to the San Francisco Conservatory of Music to study voice. Her teacher, Paulina Giovannini, taught her how to control and develop her lyric soprano voice. A few weeks later, said Giovannini, "Taught me everything." She also studied acting at Elizabeth Holloway's school. One day, her teacher told her, "If you're going to do this, you need to leave. Go to LA or New York. Get out of the nest." So she did. At 20, she moved to Los Angeles. But LA wasn't glamorous at first. She got rejected constantly. She told her she wasn't pretty enough, not busty enough, and should just marry someone local. Another showed her a photo of his daughter and said she needed a chest like hers to make it. It was cruel and humiliating. But Barbara didn't give up. She decided to focus on being a character actress instead. She said, "Not every part is written for a big busted woman." The set shift helped, and not long after, one of those same agents saw her again and didn't even remember rejecting her. He told her to take a screen test and said, "You're going somewhere." She landed a small part in the film Back from Eternity in 1956. She played a journalist, but she wasn't even credited. But in the film, it was a start. She also took any job she could find, working at a bank by day, and as a chorus girl at Cairo's nightclub by night. That was a famous place. She probably performed for the very people who once told her no. Barbara Eden's big break came in 1957. She beat out around 70 other actresses to land her first starring TV role as Loco Jones in How to Marry a Millionaire. It was a sitcom based on the 1953 film with Marilyn Monroe. The show followed 3 women in a fancy New York apartment, all trying to marry rich men. Eden's character, Loco, wore thick glasses and caused most of the show's laughs. One of the funniest moments came when Loco stared through an art gallery window, mistaking it for a painting. The show only lasted 13 episodes in its second season, but Eden's performance stood out. It put her on the map. From there, Eden didn't slow down. Between 1957 and 1964, she appeared in nearly every big TV show of the era. She had a guest role in I Love Lucy in one of the last episodes ever filmed. She also showed up in Perry Mason as a manicurist, a part so central it was in the episode title. Westerns were big at the time, and Eden got her share of screen time in Gunsmoke Rawhide, where she worked with a young Clint Eastwood and the Virginian. She acted in Route 66, Burke's Law, and The Andy Griffith Show, holding her own next to Don Knotts. These roles weren't just filler. They let Eden flex her skills in comedy, drama, and action. Producers noticed. In 1960, her rising career collided with Elvis Presley's. The film Flaming Star cast her opposite the king himself. Elvis played a mixed-race cowboy named Pacer Burton, a serious role far from his usual musical numbers. The film was shot in Utah and California. One location was later renamed Flaming Star Avenue in honor of the production. Eden remembered Elvis being great on horseback and surprisingly open during breaks. He talked to her about his struggle with weight, saying it showed in his face because he took after his mother. He also shared how trapped he felt by fame, how he couldn't even leave his hotel room. Elvis even brought up his relationship troubles, likely about Priscilla, whom he said was awfully young. Eden also noticed something odd. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, had set up a desk on set selling Elvis merchandise. It made her realize just how commercial his world really was. By the early 60s, Eden had moved into film, proving she could do more than just TV. In 1961, she starred in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, a sci-fi movie about a nuclear submarine trying to stop Earth's destruction. The movie was a hit. It made $7 million at the box office on a $158 million budget. In 1962, she took a role in The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm. MGM borrowed her from 20th Century Fox, which was common back then. Originally, another actress, Yvette Mimieux, was going to play Eden's part, but casting changed. In 1964, Eden appeared in Seven Faces of Dr. Lao, where she played a widowed librarian in a fantasy world created by a magical circus. That same year, she added more films to her resume, including 5 Weeks in a Balloon, The Yellow Canary, The New Interns, and Ride the Wild Surf. She was everywhere, and Hollywood had clearly taken notice. Then came The Brass Bottle in 1964. It was a goofy fantasy movie where a man finds a genie in a bottle. Tony Randall played the man. Burl Ives was the genie. Eden played Randall's fiancée, a normal woman caught in the middle. The film wasn't a big hit. In fact, the New York Times called it about as funny as your own funeral, but it changed everything. A TV producer named Sidney Sheldon saw the movie and got an idea. He was looking for a way to compete with Bewitched, a new hit show about a witch living in suburbia. After seeing Eden in The Brass Bottle, he decided she'd be perfect for a magical role of her own. In 1965, Sheldon began casting for I Dream of Jeannie. He wanted someone with dark hair, unlike the blonde witch on Bewitched. For 8 months, casting agents brought in exotic-looking women, tall, dark-haired, with Middle Eastern features. They tested 500 actresses. Eden wasn't even being considered until her agent sent her the script. Then Sheldon called her personally and invited her to tea at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Eden had already impressed him years earlier on the Johnny Carson show, even if he didn't remember it right away. She gave the best audition. Everyone agreed, but Sheldon still tried to get her to dye her blonde hair. Eden refused. That moment shaped TV history. She stayed blonde, and Jeannie was born. Soon after the show began, a strange problem popped up. It was the camera Eden's belly button. Her costume sometimes slipped just low enough to show it on camera. At first, no one cared, but when a reporter visited the set and joked with Eden about revealing her navel, it sparked a media frenzy. The reporter wrote a piece calling it The Unseen Navel. And suddenly, everyone was talking about it. Other shows made fun of the situation. A comedy sketch show even planned a joke about it. That's when NBC stepped in. Executives held an actual meeting to discuss Eden's belly button. From then on, strict rules were put in place. Eden had to wear multiple layers under her costume, tights, panties, and a bra to ensure nothing would show. She later joked, "Other people are known for very glamorous parts of their body. We got a belly button." Behind the scenes, things weren't always lighthearted. Eden had a tough time working with her co-star, Larry Hagman. Their on-screen chemistry hit a real struggle. Hagman was unhappy and had started drinking heavily. Eden said he was always professional during filming, but off-camera, things were tense. By season 3, his drinking was a real issue. NBC considered replacing him. Eden stepped in and defended him. She told producers he's the best person for that part. She believed in him. Later, Hagman thanked her for saving his house. Still, he struggled. He got jealous of other actors and once admitted to Eden that she scared him during their first scene. Despite everything, Eden believed they were meant to work together, even if it wasn't always easy. When I Dream of Jeannie ended in 1970, Barbara Eden knew she had to move fast. She'd become a household name, but the risk of being stuck in that genie costume forever was real. So instead of jumping into another sitcom, she tried something completely different. In 1971, she starred in a psychological thriller called A Howling in the Woods, alongside her old co-star, Larry Hagman. It was a dark, dramatic role. No magic, no comedy, just tension, mystery, and a woman haunted by strange noises in the night. It was shot in Lake Tahoe and Dayton, Nevada. And just like that, Barbara Eden started rewriting her image. She worked on a couple of pilots, The Barbara Eden Show and The Toy Game. Neither made it to series, but they weren't failures. They were stepping stones. Eden was testing ideas, showing casting directors she could be more than Jeannie. In 1977, she played in Stone Street, Who Killed the Centerfold Model, diving into the murder mystery genre. Again, no sparkle or ponytail, just grit and suspense. Slowly, she was showing the world she could do more. Then came a surprise hit. In 1978, Eden starred in Harper Valley PTA, a movie based on a country song. She played Stella Johnson, a bold single mom taking on her town's petty school board. It was sharp, funny, and Eden crushed it. The movie was so popular it turned into a TV show in 1981. She didn't just reprise her role, she had fun with it. In one episode, she wore a blue and gold genie outfit just for laughs. In another, she played two characters, Stella and her cousin Della, just like she once did with Jeannie and her evil twin. The series was a hit right out the gate. In its first season, it won 11 of its 13 time slots. It later got renamed to just Harper Valley. Around this time, Eden also became the face of Legs Pantyhose. You could find her in magazines, TV commercials, and print ads across America. She was everywhere again, but this time on her terms. But her life wasn't all scripts and spotlights. In 1958, she married actor Michael Ansara. They'd met on a blind date arranged by her publicist to break off a former relationship. They clicked instantly and skipped the Halloween party they were supposed to attend. They married soon after, and Eden later said he was the love of my life. They struggled for years to have a baby. And finally, in 1965, she got the news. On the same day, Jeannie was picked up by NBC. She was pregnant. The producers hid her growing belly behind props and veils. Matthew was born that August. He was her miracle, but joy didn't erase their struggles. Eden's fame soared while Ansara's slowed down. Tension built. In 1971, Eden was pregnant again, but the baby was stillborn just weeks before delivery. The grief shattered them. It destroyed our relationship, she said later. In 1974, after 16 years, they divorced. To make things worse, Eden lost custody of 12-year-old Matthew. He stayed in California with his dad while she moved east. I cried a lot, she said. Not long after, she was cast in a guest role on I Love Lucy. Desi Arnaz pursued her behind the scenes. He followed her around during rehearsals, and she had to hide just to avoid him. He popped up wherever I went, she recalled. I'm not a prude, but married men are out of bounds to me. Eventually, he backed off, and they shot their scene without incident. But the experience stayed with her. Everyone knew Desi cheated on Lucy. It was Hollywood's open secret. In 1977, Eden married Charles Fegert, a newspaper executive from Chicago. He courted her hard, flowers, love notes, charm. She moved to Chicago and left her son behind again. Their condo was glamorous. The life wasn't. Fegert drank heavily and used cocaine. He ran with a fast crowd and wanted to maintain his playboy image. The marriage became abusive. Eden walked away in 1982. it was a 5-year disaster. She returned to Los Angeles in 1983. Matthew was now a teenager, and she barely recognized him. He was moody, withdrawn. Teachers raised red flags. Friends suggested a drug test. The result was positive. Eden was crushed. She hadn't seen the signs. Matthew denied everything. She described that time as total heartbreak. From then on, her life revolved around saving her son. For 14 years, it was rehab, relapses, and brief moments of hope. He got clean, got engaged, became a bodybuilder and a trainer. But it never lasted. He had started using drugs at age 10, introduced by a neighbor growing marijuana. Sometimes he was homeless. She'd drive around L.A. looking for him. She gave him food. She gave him money. But she couldn't trust him. Then came June 25, 2001. Matthew was found dead in his truck at a Chevron gas station. He was 35. The cause was a heroin overdose. He had been sober. He was getting married in 6 weeks. Eden was helping him plan the wedding when she got the call. She collapsed. Even though he was 35, he was still my baby, she said. The grief was endless. She cried every day for years. After becoming a global icon in I Dream of Jeannie, Barbara Eden had to prove she was more than a single role. That wasn't easy. People couldn't see past the Genie bottle. But in 1990, she shocked audiences by joining Dallas, one of the most watched TV dramas at the time. She played a fierce billionaire named Leanne de la Vega. It was a completely different side of Barbara. Smart, ruthless, and in control. Her scenes with Larry Hagman were electric, and fans couldn't get enough. It was only 5 episodes, but they were unforgettable. Even her character's maiden name was Nelson, a cheeky nod to her Jeannie days. Barbara didn't stop there. In the 90s and early 2000s, she hit the stage with big tours of Last of the Red Hot Lovers and The Odd Couple, female version. She was already in her late 60s, but she never slowed down. Whether it was comedy or drama, she delivered. And she proved she wasn't just a TV star. She could shine on any stage. Then came Sabrina, the teenage witch. In the late 90s, Barbara took on the role of Aunt Irma, a hilarious and slightly wild relative with magical powers. It wasn't just a cute cameo. She stole every scene. Teenagers who had no idea who Jeannie was suddenly became Barbara Eden fans. Those episodes were some of the show's most watched. Producers later said she was their dream guest star. Kids as young as 8 started recognizing her, not as Jeannie, but as Aunt Irma. Barbara also made waves in advertising. In the 1990s, she appeared in major campaigns for Old Navy, AT&T, and Lexus. She wore the Jeannie outfit again for Old Navy, and people went crazy. Sales jumped. AT&T used her magical image in funny, clever commercials about phone service. Then came Lexus. She helped launch their luxury SUV in a commercial that helped the brand win Car of the Year. These ads weren't just nostalgia. They showed Barbara's ability to stay fresh, funny, and powerful in a completely new context. In 2002, she guest-starred on George Lopez. He was a huge Jeannie fan and made sure everyone on set treated her like royalty. Crew members lined up for autographs. She was professional, kind, and even improvised lines that made it into the show. That episode boosted ratings. Lopez later said she taught him how to truly connect with fans. She also appeared on Army Wives in 2007 and hosted shows like Ballroom with a Twist. Even behind the scenes, Barbara kept winning over hearts with grace and talent. But behind the fame was a long, personal journey. In 1991, she married John Eichholz, an architect and real estate developer. It was her 3rd marriage, and this one changed everything. After 2 painful marriages, one ending after the loss of a stillborn baby and another marred by addiction and abuse, Barbara wasn't looking for love, But John brought peace. She often says they're loyal to the core. They've traveled the world together, visiting places like China and Africa. She credits his patience and kindness for the calm, steady life she finally found. And during her hardest moments, like the tragic loss of her son Matthew, John was her rock. Barbara didn't just give to fans, she gave to causes too. She helped raise money for breast cancer research through the Trail of Painted Ponies. She worked with Make-A-Wish to bring joy to sick children. She supported Child Help USA, the American Cancer Society, the March of Dimes, and more. She didn't just lend her name, she showed up, gave time, and spoke from the heart. She once said, "They need someone to speak for them, and I never say no." Her personal pain turned into powerful action. In 2011, she released her memoir, A Genie Out of the Bottle. It hit number 14 on the New York Times' bestseller list. The book was raw and honest. She shared stories from early Hollywood, her friendships with stars like Elvis and Marilyn Monroe, and behind-the-scenes memories with Larry Hagman. But she didn't hold back on the pain either. She wrote about the stillbirth of her first child, the abuse in her second marriage, and her son's accidental heroin overdose just months before his wedding. She admitted she never properly grieved her stillborn baby. She carried guilt. Writing the book helped her finally process all of it. It became a story not just of fame, but of heartbreak and healing. And the world noticed. Barbara received multiple Lifetime Achievement Awards, including ones from the Broadcasters Hall of Fame, TV Land, and the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. Her star is on the Walk of Fame at 7003 Hollywood Boulevard. She starred in over 25 films and 19 top-rated TV movies. People magazine even named her one of the 200 greatest pop icons of the 20th century. These weren't just awards. They were symbols of a career built on talent, endurance, and joy. Even in her 90s, Barbara didn't slow down. In 2024, at 93 years old, she was still traveling to conventions across the United States. She appeared at Fanboy Expo in Orlando, Hollywood Show in Los Angeles, and Lexington Comic and Toy Con. Fans lined up not just for autographs, but to say thank you. She answered questions, shared stories, and treated everyone with warmth. Her energy amazed people. She still supported charities like Make-A-Wish and Child Help, proving that age hadn't dimmed her light one bit. Then came 2021. At almost 90, Barbara and her husband both caught COVID-19. It was a terrifying time, but they recovered together. She talked about it while promoting her children's book, Barbara and the Djinn. She spoke openly about health and hope. Surviving that moment showed her strength once again. Even after that, she kept showing up for fans and for causes. Today, she lives in Benedict Canyon, Beverly Hills, with John and their 60-pound Labradoodle named Bentley. Their home is filled with sunshine, memories, and love. It's not a mansion filled with noise. It's a peaceful retreat. Photos and mementos from her career cover the wall. She walks Bentley with John, enjoys their garden, and hosts friends in a home that feels lived in and warm. After all the chaos of Hollywood, Barbara found peace, and it shows.